Sebastian, tell them what they're watching. Yeah!
Hey everyone, Sageman here. It's been over 3.5 years since the previous podcast episode. Only one video was posted to the channel in the calendar year of 2025. Not gonna cry on camera or anything, but executive dysfunction is just the worst. People who've never had it can't even begin to understand it, so I can't even really talk about it. People just be like, if you want to do something, why don't you just do it? And I'm like, I'm trying, I'm banging on the walls in my head like crazy, but it ain't happening. Doing better in 2026, we've had some output. So, what's happened in the past 3.5 years that you need to know? Assuming anyone's coming here from the previous episode. Well, as the updated Sebastian bumper indicated, Sebastian is gone. He was very old, he was my best buddy, and it was time. Meanwhile, my little cats, who I showed off in the Season 2 premiere, they're big kitties now. Big kitties. Sorry, guys. Alright, they didn't like the snuggle. They're nice boys, though. They've been extra affectionate since we lost Sebastian. He must have meant a lot to them. Marmalade and butter. Ginger kitty and blonde kitty. Got you. Boop, 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 boop. And got your butter. Boop. And let's see. I had a dishwashing job. I lost it because my new medications at the time were making me all narcoleptic, so I kept sleeping through when I was supposed to be going to work. Not great. Then, eventually I got another dishwashing job. It's a dinner shift, so I handled it much better under those circumstances. And, got some medication which is combating the falling asleep all over the place. Doesn't always work out for me. I might just be getting older and need to nap in the middle of the day. I don't know. I try many things to treat my depression and anxiety, and it's been a very rough decade. It's been a rough decade of my life. For the most part, anti-anxiety stuff just puts me right to sleep. Don't like that, so I usually don't take it and just, stay terrified all the time. But I've got a good one now that I take as needed that just makes me properly at ease. Yeah. So there's that pretty well handled. As for depression, well, I kind of go on a cycle every year where whenever I'm on an antidepressant, I find that I still sit around and do nothing. I just don't feel bad about it anymore. So eventually I stopped taking my antidepressant because I feel like I need the unbearable guilt and shame to motivate me at least a little. But this year I found the lack of depression was going so well that I definitely didn't want to do that again. So as far as the executive dysfunction, I'm on a light dose of some new ADHD meds, which so far are working a little tiny bit. This past year I've gotten married. I married my longtime sweetheart Natty, and I'm working on immigrating to Sweden to finally be with her long term after 12 years of long distance. Might start a real LLC for TAPAS finally, once I'm in Sweden, since it would be pretty short-sighted to do it while I'm still here in the US. While I was up there in Sweden, something flu-like, possibly something COVID-like, ran through the whole wedding party, and for myself, I still have a sore throat 7 months later. I can't sing or do voices without coughing, which is very unsettling for me because that's what I love doing. I saw a doctor at the walk-in clinic who said he'd refer me to an ENT specialist if his treatment didn't work out, which it didn't, so did that, and the throat doctor couldn't see anything wrong with my throat, so he put me on 3 months of antacids, which maybe are helping, feeling a little better. We'll have to see. So overall, I'm doing pretty good right now. I've had a lot of way down there downs, but I'm feeling pretty up right now. Final note, the Team Salmon segment you're about to watch was recorded 3.5 years ago, mere days after the previous episode dropped. I listened to it. Not everything in it is still completely timely, but the TAPAS stuff is. We haven't gotten much done creatively in the intervening years. All the other segments today were recorded a little over 1 year ago when I made an attempt at doing this episode, which I clearly didn't finish. But if you're seeing this, obviously, I finished it now. As always, you'll be seeing a review of a Season 1 podcast episode, a look at some of my old fanfiction, and an examination of some things that inspired me in my youth. Let's begin. And we're in with another guest segment. Here we have another of the people without whom Tapas could truly never have begun. This is true of all the previous guests. Everyone who comes after this episode, I could take them or leave them, whatever. I'm kidding. Here we have Mason Ellison. He is the creator of Better Yet, which was our first big fiction project. To date, still the only one that's out there. Since then, he's jumped on as a producer for the further projects we've been working on, is helping to fund things and make decisions. And after directing Better Yet, he has still always been at my side in the voiceover studio, co-directing the actors, always full of good ideas that really get the best performances out. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. I just want to point out I am the co-creator of Better Yet. I really could not have done it without my co-writer Jason Epley. So I just want to
Yes.
give credit where credit is due.
Yes. Yeah, it's not that I forget per se. It's just that I was here for so much of the later stages where Jason was not available.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure we don't forget that.
But yes, all the credit for Jason, who is at least halfway responsible for the version of Better Yet the first time I saw it, at least.
Yes.
Yeah, let's start by talking about Better Yet itself. Its first anniversary was a couple of months ago, late July.
Mhm.
I had hoped to record this segment on that anniversary, but unfortunately, I ended up with COVID. First time, yay! And couldn't really speak. And then, it floundered for another couple of months, like things do on this channel. I had a long time ambition to make kind of a big watch party audio commentary type thing for the first anniversary. And I knew I wanted Adrian to be in on it, who played Corinne, because we really haven't seen her since before the
Yeah.
show was released. But a month before the anniversary, she announced that she was going in for open heart surgery around that time. So naturally, I didn't even bring it up to her. Sounds like she's recovering nicely, and I hope we can, in fact, do that sometime. Have a big, Better Yet look back.
I hope so too, yeah. But again, she has to put herself first when it comes to her health, and we're totally okay with that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's always been firmly on that side for sure.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if we're gonna do like a commentary for it, I do have to finish the closed captions first, so we can talk about it and still know what's going on. But
Yeah.
I found this summer I just can't caption anything in the summer because with my ancient air conditioner and my big cheap plasticky fan, I can't hear a damn thing in this apartment. So it's either be deaf or melt. So it's kind of good I haven't had the spoons to make a ton of videos this summer because I don't know, my audio gets back. Anyway, Mason, why don't you tell us about your thoughts on Better Yet's release as of its first year and what your intentions are for its future as a play?
Absolutely. So, for anyone who doesn't know, we originally did write Better Yet to be a stage play. And when I first showed it to you and you took interest in it, our original goal was going to be to have a stage reading of it with several actors in mind. Then a little thing called COVID happened and said, yeah, no. So when that didn't pan out, you suggested the idea of doing an audio play, and I wasn't really on board with it at first because I just kept thinking, I don't know if that's going to have the effect I wanted, if it's going to actually capture what I want this story to be. But as COVID showed no signs of slowing down, we eventually came to the conclusion that yes, Better Yet, in order to try not just to try and get a project off the ground like we did, but also to sort of see, can this story work? If I can get it out there, what are people's thoughts on it? we decided to turn it into an audio play, and I'm glad we did. Of the people who have listened to it and talked to me about it, they were really impressed. They really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
They had nothing but nice things to say. So either they're lying or they're telling me something, good that we were able to actually deliver an work of fiction that was actually really good for them.
I
And
mean,
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, I mean, as for it, I don't know how close the final result is to your long time vision for it, but I mean, I felt from the beginning that it would work great as audio because it's so much of it is focused on just hashing out one's feelings,
Mhm.
and there were a few very tiny moments that we had to rework to make non-visual, but all of it's all so inconsequential, and
Yeah.
I just think it was I think we picked the right medium for delivery, I'd say.
I would agree. But that said, I still have intentions to try and see if I can actually get this as an actual stage play.
Hmm.
So that's kind of something I've been sort of thinking about is what can I work on? What can get fixed? Possibly fleshing out some more aspects of the narrative, the characters that perhaps I didn't focus on quite as clearly as I really could have, or I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I do think that I would like to see this on stage as well, not just the version we put out. And I'm very proud of the version we put out. I think it's excellent, and I could not be happier, not only with the performances that we gave, but also the product that we delivered. And again, I have said this before, but I think it just bears repeating over and over again. I could not be happier with the work that Isaac did as far as helping us get the sound that we needed to deliver
Oh,
a
yes.
very professional sounding product, and the performances that everybody in the cast, not just me, but everybody, not just you and me, but everybody in the cast, I could not have asked for better performances, and I am so proud of the work they did, and I hope they are as well.
That and yeah, absolutely. It was so good, but nevertheless, I'm glad you still want to work with it and see it done in a different way because I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just a good. And I guess that's the thing about stage in particular is that you get a lot of opportunities for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel that the essence of a good story is how can it be reinterpreted with different directors, different actors, different people coming in and doing it. I feel
Yeah,
if a story holds up, it'll hold up when other people come and do it. And
sure.
that's what I would want eventually at some point.
Yeah,
So,
just to take a look at it. Yeah, just a completely different cast, and you just giving a director the script and kind of stepping back and seeing
yes.
what becomes of it. And yeah, I mean, if that happens, I hope we can good get some good cameras out, film it, see put put that first attempt at it up on the channel, and
Yeah, absolutely.
from there maybe just ship it out to other little theaters and.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see that happen at some point.
Oh, let's touch upon the Q&A bit we always get in this segment. If you pledge
Okay.
the $11 tier in our Patreon, you get to ask a question of the guest. Sadie Allen asked about your creative process and how you got into voice acting. That's two questions, but when you're the only person in the tier, you get to do that. Let's start with how you sit down and write. We discussed that the other day. What once you've managed to actually start, right?
Yes. So once I actually managed to start. So
Hardest part.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So when it comes to anything I conceive in terms of a story, whatever it is, I have to go through it sequentially. I have to start at the beginning and see it through all the way to the end. I don't know how common that is, but that's just the way I have always done everything. I wrote play back in college that, looking back on it, I'm not quite too proud of. But when I had to write it, I really could not start at the end because I had an idea for the ending, but I didn't know how to get there. So I
Hmm.
had to hash it out from the beginning. And so that currently is how Jason and I, when we started writing this, we got together. I told him the general concept I had for it, which was to shed a light on mental illness. As I struggle with depression, and I know a lot of people do. This is kind of a way for me to try and articulate some of the things, not all, but some of the things I deal with when it comes to mental illness, and how to put it in a fictional setting to try and give a voice to people going through something similar. And I had moments like that dinner scene, for example. I had ideas like that I wanted to use, but I did not know how to get all the pieces lined up. And that is where Jason really helped me. We sat down, we focused on, okay, what characters do we want in this scene or that scene? We wrote out an entire outline of everything in the script narratively, everything that would happen in Act One, everything that would happen in Act Two. We settled on characters, everything. At one point, I don't know exactly when, but we decided pretty early on to try and keep a pretty small cast so that it would be easier to manage. Okay, who is who and what are they doing and why are they there? Um, and for me, that's just how it goes. But that said, when it came time to actually starting to write these characters speaking to each other, I couldn't start at the end. I couldn't start in the middle. I had to start at the beginning. And ultimately, I'm glad I did because it worked for this one. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'll try it differently some other time, but as far as things stand right now, I really have to write sequentially.
Yeah. That's interesting that so you kind of have to discover it as you go.
Hmm.
Yeah, as I spoke as I talked about when I was my own guest in the first episode this season, I talked about how when I uh yeah, how I try to power through a script, and when there's something I'm not sure of, I just put some red text in of the general idea, go back and fill that in. And lately I've been working on having other people help me fill in those blank spots. I had Mason and Natty had helped me co-write the irregular fantasy pilot that we are
Hmm.
working on. Um, and yeah, and I suppose that's what people recommend. You try your best to get to beginning to the end, and there are always those spots where I can't quite get the connective tissue, and then but like for you, you have to plow through that every time.
Usually, it's possible I could do it, but I don't know. I think I was more afraid that if I tried doing it differently, the tone might have come off, as something I didn't want, or I may have opened myself up to a plot hole that would be really easy to catch in hindsight
Yeah,
that I just would never see. And that's just kind of how I process things.
yeah,
So,
I can very much see that. It's and on the other, there is kind of a syndrome where if you write the end of a series and you stick to exactly what you wrote first, the ending does not make any sense.
so
It's
that's why
pretty
Game
much
of Thrones sucked.
well, I don't know about that. I mean, that's why
I'm kidding. I'm
it's
sorry. I'm
it's.
still
I mean, for
bitter
one
over
thing, it's
that.
why the Harry Potter epilogue is so off tonally, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the only example I can think of.
I mean, that said, I did have an idea of what I wanted to do for the ending of Better Yet, and I mostly stuck to it. It just kind of evolved as I kept going, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just if you don't let that ending evolve, it's gonna look pretty weird to the reader, I'd say.
Hmm. Exactly. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm still bitter over the ending of Game of Thrones.
Yes, the world is, and don't imagine. Uh,
Well,
I don't imagine things will be improved by the ending of A Song of Ice and Fire because that's not happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be more willing to give George R. R. Martin a shot, considering he doesn't say, "Okay, I got to wrap this up immediately. I have Star Wars movies I want to make." Oh wait, no, I don't want to make Star Wars movies. I want to make a Netflix series.
No, I mean, I'm not saying the ending of A Song of
No,
Ice
I
and
know.
Fire will be bad. I'm saying it's not going to happen. I think
I
he's
know.
lost interest entirely.
I know. I'm saying if for whatever reason Hell freezes over and we do get it, it'll
Mhm.
be probably much better than anything they're working on. That said, I see so many people talking about House of Dragons and being like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is great." It's like, look, I've been burned before by Game of Thrones media. I don't want to take a chance on this until the show is over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of time lost. But again, that's what happens, I think, when people try and rush an ending rather than let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why, for me personally, I always have ideas of where I want to end. But if I have to change the way I get there, I change the way I get there.
Yeah.
But I change it in a way that it doesn't cause the tone to suddenly fly out the window.
Mhm. And Sadie's other question, how you got into voice acting? That's not really relevant. You got into voice acting right here. But
Yeah.
I figure there,
Okay.
I figure there are two directions we can go with that question, and we'll do both. Sadie gets three questions because she pays the monthly subscription, even though I don't actually do stuff every month, so she's earned it.
Yes,
Why
yes.
don't you tell us about your history in the theater? Like most people here in Quincy, I met you at a Quincy Community Theater. So talk about how you got there.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, the first time I ever did theater, I was in the fifth grade. And I tried out for the school drama club because a girl that I had a crush on was auditioning, and I thought I would do it as well. I ended up getting into the drama club, and she didn't. I don't even remember her name, honestly. But
Hey,
yeah, and so fifth grade, we are doing Charlotte's Web. Uh, and interestingly enough, I got cast as the role of the obnoxious brother Avery.
hmm,
And surprise, surprise, I was really, really good at it despite never, having done it before. And interestingly enough, I've sort of been typecast as jerks and, you know, assholes. I mean, between that and playing Ryan and Better Yet, I want people to know that is not me in the
yeah.
slightest. But that was the first time I did theater, and I enjoyed it. I turned out to be really good at it, and it just I don't know, it felt right. It was one of the first things I did where I felt like I was actually really, really good at something naturally.
Yeah. Oh, that's well, there's a funny thing. It's not me like performing in general, but at discovering our local theater QCT. First time I went to a show there was because I was in my teens and I was stalking a girl who was in the cast and but my main takeaway from that night, apart from getting to see her a few more times, was this is a really nice theater.
May I ask what show that was?
That was Geppetto.
Geppetto. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was a ways back. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, we were in our teens at the time. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
and oh yeah, and Demi, I think I also got started in the fifth grade for fourth grade, fifth grade. I did Hamlet 2 consecutive years. I was the gravedigger when I was in the fourth grade, and I was the king in the fifth grade.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. But so yeah, that's how I started doing theater, and I kept doing it through high school. In college, I was a theater minor. I don't know, I just something about being in the theater clicked for me that I just really enjoyed telling stories, and I love the sense of community that a theater can really bring, not
Oh
just
yeah.
for the people in the cast, but connecting to the world at large, the audience, through stories that sometimes we all know by heart, like Hamlet. or stories we're discovering for the first time ever.
Yeah.
It can be so much fun and so liberating to be able to say, okay, for 5 minutes, I get to be someone else and make you laugh or make you cry or just
Mhm.
entertain you in some way. And so I kept doing that all throughout, school. Then when I started working my first real adult job, I found QCT would allow me to continue, doing that, but allowing me the opportunity to do that during the evenings. So I could still have my job and I could still, do what I truly love to do.
It's good.
And so when they announced that Spamalot was going to be one of the shows that season, I swore to myself I was going to be in that show some way. I don't care how, I'm going to be involved because my mom raised me on a steady diet of British humor from as far back as I can remember. And Monty Python and the Holy Grail being one of the biggest
Hmm.
ones I can think of. And so I auditioned and I didn't get a call back for any major roles. I was in the ensemble, but honestly, I was pleased because I don't think I have ever worked harder in any show because the ensemble has to do so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those 2 days after I auditioned were grueling because it's like, did I get in? Did I get in? Did I get in? Because the summer before I auditioned for Les Mis and I didn't get in, and I was really kind of,
Mm.
you know, weary about, even auditioning for anything because I thought, okay, maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm not, cut out for it. Maybe, whatever. And so when it was announced that I made the ensemble, it's like, yes, thank you. And that's where we met. And apparently I made a good enough impression on you that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we kept talking after that. I mean, I was yeah, I guess I felt closer to the ensemble guys because I was Sir Robin, and I was I was very much a newcomer to QCT. It was my first show, and playing my fellow knights or kind of older guys, and I felt a bond with most of the ensemble guys, and I mostly, yeah, for dance sequences, I was mostly watching Mason out the corner of my eye to see if I was dancing right.
Which is surprising because I have never had any like formal dance training. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, memorizing movements just comes really natural to
Yeah.
me. Maybe I should have been a dancer. But actually, I just to kind of go off that, our little spamily, as we called it,
Yeah.
that was one of the most tight knit casts I have ever been in.
Oh
Just
yeah.
because, I mean, with the exception of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake, everybody in that show has to double up on parts, on duties. Everybody has to do something. And so I never felt like there was this disconnect between the principal characters like you and the ensemble because I mean, one moment you'll
Us
be Sir Robin singing and dancing,
we're
and the next
all rushing
moment
back to do quick changes, right? Not
yeah,
just the
we're all rushing
ensemble.
back, and the next thing you know, I mean, Michael Gash would have been playing Lancelot for 5 minutes, and then the next moment he's one of the French knights, and I'm behind the door helping him, drive off the British scum. So, there was a lot of work everyone had to do, and so
Mhm.
I never felt disconnected from the cast like for a minute, and we were all pretty, tight knit. We had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
So as
Spamily.
one would expect.
Yeah. And yeah, that was my first show that I did. I had yeah, at the time I spotted I was yeah, I was visiting my grandpa at the time, just spending a
Mhm.
couple of months with him because my grandma had just passed away and he was needing some company, and I saw a commercial for Spamalot auditions, which was, I mean, kind of unusual now that I think about it, to just see the commercial like that. And I was like, I I got to be a part of this. And it it really felt like fate because I had continued going to the theater with my grandma after after Geppetto, and and just loved it a whole lot. And she had always wanted me to get in on it, but I felt like I didn't really stick around town long enough to really do that. But but Spamalot and just being there and only knowing about it because she was no longer there, it felt very faded. And so yeah, I did take a bit off work. I would have gone up north to work for my aunt a little earlier than that, but no, I stayed a little longer to do Spamalot. And yeah, it was, I found in that building the only place I've ever been where I didn't feel like a clueless loser. And yeah, and yeah, it really got to me. It may have raised my expectations up too high because I've basically been trying to put tapas together since then, and I thought it would all be as easy and clean as it was to do Spamalot, but no, it's been harder work than that to get people together, but I'm still having a good time and still
Mhm.
very glad I did that, and that I live here now, so I can go back there, and I've got definitely people I still can count on and love being around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're happy to have you.
Hmm.
So yeah, ever since then, I've just have continued to do roles both on stage and backstage for QCT. And so yeah, that's just how my love affair with theater has kind of grown. And when I was in college, one of my assignments was to write a one act play, and I did. And the teacher was very encouraging. She said I had a real knack for writing dialogue, and so around 20 late 2015, early 2016, I believe, I reconnected with an old friend from high school, Jason Epley,
Hmm.
and I told him about this idea I had for a play, but I was having trouble, materializing it, and that's how we started doing Better Yet, which was untitled for the longest possible time.
Hmm.
So I'm also really bad at titles and names.
Yeah.
It's that permanence of them,
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got to make sure you have a good one.
yeah. I really something I struggle with myself. Titling anything, especially
Mm-hmm.
chapters. It's like, ugh.
Well, I guess with chapters, you have the benefit of just calling a chapter whatever number you're on. So
Yeah, but then nobody's gonna remember which chapter it is, you know.
true.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, I know. I one of your biggest and favorite experiences in theater was I think it was like 1 year after Spamalot they actually did Camelot, and
Hmm.
and I wasn't around. I didn't get to see that, but it certainly looked spectacular from what I saw.
Yeah. Well, when we did Camelot, it was it's one of my favorite shows, not because I think the show is the greatest thing ever written, because it's not. But I played the role of Mordred, the antagonist in that show, and that is one of my favorite roles because I got to play Mordred in college, and
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun doing it. But when it came around, I really thought I want to try an audition for this because I would love to try and play Mordred a second time. I would love to try and see, what worked, what didn't work, what can I improve on, what else can I discover from this show. And to this day, I would say that Mordred back in 2016, to this day, is the best on-stage performance I have ever given. The direction I received was instrumental in helping me discover so many new layers to that character, and really not just bringing that character to life, but just really connecting with an absolutely awful individual to make sure he didn't appear as a caricature. He didn't appear as just this, mustache twirling bad guy, but actually focus on his motivations, his desires. The best advice I got from the director was play the victor. The idea that you show up knowing you have already won. And I can easily say that that was the best role I've ever given on stage to this day. And I have to admit, the accent certainly helped because
Mhm.
Mordred comes from Orkney in Scotland, and I tried out a Scottish accent, and I tried it out when I first got the part back in college, and I tried it out when I auditioned again, and again, I received no callback. So for however many days it was, I'm like, oh god, they hated it, they hated it, they hated it. I got it.
Yeah,
The idea that I received no callback and I still got the part just absolutely astounded me. But
you were Scottish enough for them the first time, right?
I suppose I was. so so yeah, getting that opportunity, getting that chance to really evolve and grow as a performer with a part I already knew
Yeah.
is what really helps give me more confidence as a performer that, I am good. I may not always be the best choice for a role. And I struggle with this sometimes, but it's the idea that it's like you are not vastly untalented at these things. You can keep going, you can keep doing it. Just try not to take it personally. Now, that said, sometimes it kind of is hard not to take it personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I certainly try and keep that in my mind that I can do just about anything I do set my mind to. It's setting my mind to it that's the hard part, but I know I can do
Yeah.
it. So, but yeah, that's probably my favorite role that I've ever played on stage.
Yeah, and I'm sure figuring that out helps you with the most important role of all. One around going Scottish, Scottish, Scottish,
Scottish, Scottish, Scottish,
Scottish, Scottish.
Scottish.
Yep. The context there in the episode I did with Aaron earlier. So, and
Well, and I mean, I met Aaron when we were doing a production of Sweeney Todd, and similar to Camelot, that was probably one of the most tight knit and most cohesive functioning casts I've been a part of, which is odd that we got along so congenially considering Sweeney Todd is an otherwise really depressing show.
yeah,
But I had a lot of fun doing that one. And again, I met Aaron in the chorus of that show, and I don't know. I think Aaron said he had never done a show before that. And it just
I think he
impressed me
mentions that was
because
his
Sweeney
first. Yeah.
Todd is hard, hard music to sing. And I mean, I had plenty of experience singing in choirs and taking voice lessons and all that. But even then, I was concerned that I might not get into Sweeney Todd because it requires some top tier singing ability just for the chorus alone. That, the chorus of Sweeney Todd really never, that's the best I've ever been able to sing. And the fact that we were able to do it just really made me feel good about that. And
Yeah, I've heard that was a stunning show.
it was. I'm not just saying that because I got killed twice in the same show.
Did I get killed in Family? I did. I was the guard who likes to keep things. So no, you're not allowed to enter the room. And as for voice acting, well, you ain't seen nothing yet, viewers. We've done Better Yet, which was certainly some intense acting, but nobody was really doing voices except arguably maybe me kind of doing the kind of dead inside, depressed affectation, and Gretchen as Jodie being really high strung was otherwise a very grounded drama, so generally not what you think of when you ponder the notion of voice acting, but I'd say that's only because it's an underappreciated facet of the craft, the pure dramatic performance. But We've got stuff upcoming in which we each will do quite a few voices, and I thought another good response to Sadie's question would be to whip out some of our repertoire. Say we do yeah, and hang out with Mason. He does quite a few impressions, and I've got a few myself. Impressions generally aren't the thing you want to prioritize as a voice actor. It's better to come up with your own. But just here's some of the tricks we've picked up. Mason, why don't you whip out a bit of the old Kevin McDonald to start us off?
Oh, all right. I guess I will. I mean, after all, who hasn't grown up watching Disney movies? And personally, for me, the one I watched a lot as a kid was Lilo and Stitch. And I decided to educate myself by listening to Bleakley a lot. And then in 2001, a new TV show came on that I really enjoyed called Invader Zim. And there, I was able to learn how to do the voice of Almighty Tallest Purple, also voiced by Kevin McDonald.
And yeah, and that one out. And see, and here's another one you've been working on. I don't want to unveil too many details right now, but there's a certain group of characters in a project we're working on whose general voices I thought, and I playing one of them, I was thinking a very Ryuk from Death Note. But in talking to Mason, he thought we could get a bit more variety in that group, and he thought maybe one could have a higher voice, and I got to thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, and I said, could you do that as kind of a Jack Nicholson type?
Yeah, of course, Sparky. I'd be happy to, because you see, that's the one thing that's kind of always sort of irritated me as a performer is I tend to have a very high-pitched sort of voice. And there aren't a lot of people who have high-pitched sounding voices that are actually sort of intimidating. So I kind of thought, who is someone who does kind of have that? And then you suggested Jack Nicholson, and I said, all right, buddy, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a big hit. And as for me, I tend to be comfortable in the lower registers. That's what impresses people most, and that's what I have the most fun doing. I like to study a lot of the works of Kevin Michael Richardson. You and who might take
And Tony J.
Yeah, I don't quite match Tony J, but yes, I did play Tony J's character in Beauty and the Beast when we did that, and clearly the part was not written for someone who sounds like Tony J, because where are you going to find an ensemble member who does that? But I at least managed to give him that speaking voice. I don't usually leave the asylum in the middle of the night, but then I had to figure out a way to sing at a higher register but still sound in character.
I provided you some backup off stage.
Yes.
They asked us to. I want to make that clear. It's not that
it
I
was just they thought that
they asked us to help out. So.
Yeah, it's not that they thought. Yeah, it's not that he just stepped in, but yeah, it was just me, Gaston, LeFou, and they thought, okay, just the three people. It's not quite having the oomph, so they brought in the three ensemble guys who each matched our own type and had a double up for us, and
which meant I needed to sing really, really high, which is a little easier for me as opposed to someone with a deeper voice like you.
I don't hit high notes when I mean, I can hit a high note well enough for it to be funny, but not for it to be impressive,
Yeah.
And like I said, I studied a bit of Kevin Michael Richardson. It was a good monologue of his. Here's one from a game I'm actually going to be talking about later on in this episode after this segment. But yeah, he goes, "I live. Flesh and blood and bone, I am alive. I swore I would scratch and crawl my way back into the world of the living, and I have done it. Ha 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 ha."
Nice.
And so yeah, it was good. Kevin Michael Richardson. Of course, the line he always goes to is one he did when he played the Joker. What show is that had Kevin Michael Richardson as the Joker?
The Batman.
The Bat. That's what I thought. Yeah, the show called The Batman,
The
and the
one
line.
that comic nerd Mason did not like because it's like, that's not the origin. That's not that. You know, when it aired, it's like, that's not how that happened. And then
Yeah,
as I got older, I kind of mellowed on it, but it's
yeah,
still
yeah.
my favorite Batman.
Yeah, it's a got a Joker. It's a kind of like yeah, got this thing going on. He's got dreadlocks that look a bit like a jester hat, and then like yeah, it's nice. You're trying something new, and yeah,
Yeah.
Kevin Michael Richardson. He had kind of a he did a little bit of a Blue Meanie kind of thing with it, where his like the line he always uses when people ask him to do a Joker line, he goes, "I was feeling a bit screw loose, so I checked myself in." And just goes high to low like that.
Which is funny because I mean the Blue Meanie is one of my favorite characters to ever do the whole idea of Pepperland is but a tickle of joy on the big blue belly of the universe. It must be scratched. And I can honestly see where that would have inspired Kevin Michael Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Kevin Michael Richardson's just freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Anything I've ever seen or heard him do.
Yep. He was also in Lilo and Stitch.
Yes,
You
yes,
miserable
was,
little
yeah.
trog. They won't shoot anyone but you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, another great performance by him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, see, that's the thing I loved about Disney movies all the way up until that point, roughly, is they hired voice talent.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if they're going to do Lilo and Stitch, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they're already considering this. They would get someone like, and this is not a slam against him, they would get an A-lister. They would get someone, they would get a celebrity and just hand them a piece of paper and say, here, read this.
Yeah. I mean, as far as, Disney studio films, they still don't go with the A-list voice talent for the most part. I mean, not
as
anymore.
often, no.
Not any more than they always have, pretty much. But yeah, it's other studios definitely have that problem.
But what also kind of bothers me is they also don't go nearly as hard for, like, I'm gonna say slightly more obscure performers. That said, they're more recent films like Encanto. I have really enjoyed the fact that they've really been trying to actually pull from people who are of whatever nationality, ethnicity, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
right
that's the big thing more recently is that it's like unlike in
being a privileged white guy, yeah, I'm not gonna know who all these people are, but that's the fun. I get to discover who these people are.
Totally.
So yeah, Disney has not been as bad recently, but yeah, that's been one of my biggest problems. I mean, I know everyone was like, oh my god, Chris Pratt's playing Mario, I hate this is gonna suck. And it's like, it's not gonna suck because Chris Pratt's playing Mario. It's gonna suck because Chris Pratt's voice is coming out of Mario. There is no character, it's Chris Pratt. And I also don't expect very good things from Illumination personally.
No.
I would love to be wrong, and I always hope I am. They just haven't made anything that's really impressed me recently, outside of the first Despicable Me movie.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, with you there.
So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
It's a number. It's another voice trick that you can do because before we go back to me because I got a couple I want to show off.
Okay, fine. Is there any particular ones that you want to hear? I mean, I can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said the other night. For some reason, you've done quite a few that really impressed me, but I can't remember what they were.
I can always do some of my little Karibo voices.
That's right. Yeah, you do a lot of
Marek.
Yes, you do a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, and you can do most of the characters, which makes sense because most of the characters will have a one singular voice actor.
Yeah, and again, I just find it interesting that I can do so many of them as well as I do them.
Mm.
But yeah, between Marek Ishtar and of course Tristan Timothy Taylor and Joey Wheeler and Seto Kaiba. Shut up, Mokuba. Big brother, is it time for my cameo yet? Shut up, Mokuba. I particularly just love this because Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, a lot of Abridged series are great, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged is one that I particularly love because, I mean, when I was a kid, I was, one of the many people who got suckered into that franchise. And when I
Yeah.
reflect back on it, it's like, oh my God, this was stupid.
Yep.
This show was stupid. And to hear little Karibo basically say everything that any adult who goes back and watches that show is thinking,
Yeah.
it was just perfect.
Yeah, that was
It
the
really was.
first abridged series. The guy basically invented a medium, pretty much.
Yes, he did, and I could not be more thankful that he did because we've gotten some amazing abridged series out of it, like DBZ and Sword Art Online abridged is another particular favorite of mine. So, yep. Again, that's what I spent most of college doing is watching abridged series on YouTube.
Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah, there are another plenty of great bridge series characters. I'm trying to think what else did we discuss the other day? Because I mean, I always think that I have certain characters. I mean, I like to think I do a fairly decent Adam West, but it's entirely possible someone else might not think so.
Yeah, it impressed me when you were doing Adam West. You definitely got the cadences right, and that tends to matter more sometimes, you know.
Yeah, sometimes, and even then, it's like, okay, maybe you don't need an Adam West voice, but you need that type of character,
Hmm.
a confident idiot, which, let's face it, Adam West played very well in Family Guy.
Yeah.
So, that said, I still need to get to the bottom of who's stealing my water. Show yourself, damn it! um, You were mentioning something about the series Gargles the other day, and what was that one dialogue you were telling me that spoke to you? Um,
Was yes, it was it was when the weird sisters are confronting Macbeth and Demona about their issues. They're telling Macbeth that death is never the answer, life is. And they tell Demona about that she's just in an endless cycle of revenge constantly. And Demona's bit where she says the password is alone. That's the part that everybody remembers. But what gets to me more is before that, which is why people forget it because it came before, is when, yeah, Goliath says, death is not the answer, life is. And Macbeth says, I'm just so tired. And
that was it. Yeah.
yeah, and I was just thinking that just because I suppose the Demona part is more impactful for most people, but for me I think wanting death is a more relevant topic than revenge. Nobody really does revenge anymore.
Mm. Well, and that's one thing that's always kind of fascinated me when it comes to stories about people seeking out eternal life. It's like you do realize what that entails, don't you?
Yeah,
That you will always be tied to this plane of existence while everyone else eventually leaves you.
everybody else leaves you, you'll be soon completely unable to form relationships with people, and soon you'll be so old that
Mhm.
it'll feel like time is passing in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. And I always find that interesting, which is why I loved David Warner's interpretation of Ra's al Ghul. And yes, I said Raish from Batman the Animated
They say
Series.
it, yeah.
Yeah, because that is the impression I tend to get from his character. Is someone who has been alive for so long. The only thing that matters to him now is the planet, and people are insignificant to him considering how long and all the horrible things he's seen people do. And that's just another example of another great voice performance that, pretty much anything in the DCAU has managed to give me, because that's another inspiration I took with me, and that we were talking about the other day is to this day, I listen to the DCAU. I rewatch the DCAU about once a year. Not everything, obviously, but a vast majority of it.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I really stopped to think about exactly what kind of impact voice acting can have. I mean, my
Yeah.
inspirations were things like Looney Tunes, The Simpsons, and, Robin Williams as the genie, funny characters who are there to make you laugh and smile.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's wonderful. I love that. And I love the fact that, so much of that was made by such a small handful of people in terms of being able to present all these different characters. But Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and both Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and I later discovered Batman Beyond well into my adult life. What I think about is those shows aren't funny. They may have funny moments, but those shows are not, hilarious. They're not comedies. They're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think about those performances made by those actors. So many amazing performers, and how I was able to feel so many different emotions just from their voices alone
Yeah.
to this day.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
being more familiar with voice acting now, it's as I was saying to Mason the other day, is that I first got into the world when I realized that the characters in the Infinity Engine games that I was playing, which I will talk about later in this episode, were the same actors who appeared in all the Toon Disney reruns. I was watching. I was like, that was so interesting that these are actors who do both. And what I found was that you get a title like Baldur's Gate or Gargoyles that gives voice actors chances to really flex their dramatic chops, which you just don't see often in cartoons. Like in Gargoyles, you've got Bill Fagerbakke, the guy who plays Patrick Star, and Broadway sounds exactly like Patrick, but he has the best dramatic moments in the whole series because Bill Fagerbakke goes all in, and it's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my favorite, just going back to it real quick, one of my favorite moments in the DCAU that still manages to make me cry like a little baby to this day is, and I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but Hayden Walsh, is that how you say her name? Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time.
Then Walsh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And if I'm getting her name wrong, I'm sorry, but
Happens.
uh, there's a particular episode called Epilogue where Amanda Waller, played brilliantly by CCH Pounder, another phenomenal actress, recounts a story of showing Batman's greatest act of humanity. And this character, Ace, is about to die of a brain aneurysm. And Batman is asking her to change reality back to the way it was before she started, manipulating it. And with only a couple of words, will you stay? I'm scared. And he sits down and holds her hand. It just manages to get me every time because everything that character is trying to impart to the audience. And it's brilliant. And it's voice acting. It's not just voice acting, it's acting. And that's one of the things that made me go, oh my God, this medium can be wonderful. Because I mean, if you think about it in live action, if you were trying to replicate it, you might be able to have an actor who looks like that character, but just because they look like them, they may not be a good enough actor to really get that emotion to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a roll of the dice where you have a great actor who can totally get that emotion, but she doesn't look right, so no. And yeah, I think that's just what's so liberating about voice acting is, I mean, you can play this gigantic 7-foot lizard folk person even though you're not 7 feet tall and built like a stone privy.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, that's yeah. That is one thing about all those deep voices. Like I said, those are fun for me, and they're. But I don't have the look to pull that off. I couldn't really play a big barbarian type with this voice. I mean, even doing this voice in live action would seem hokey, but in studio, it seems to work.
I think honestly, out of the cast we've assembled for regular fantasy, I think I'm the closest one who actually comes to looking somewhat like his character now that
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
about
I
it.
think so. Yeah.
But yeah, but no, that again, that was one of the things that just really made me fall in love with what voice acting can do.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still am on the lookout for, okay, who's doing amazing things in the world of voice acting.
Yeah.
It's taken a while, but one of the things I like about the Funimation dubs is I don't hear just the same six voices over and over again. They have actually, gotten a few new ones.
Yeah, they have a pretty good pool, and you hear you hear people again, which is fun. But there's a
Yeah.
nice broad pool. I like
I
that.
mean, I was really impressed with Justin Briner, however you say his last name. I was really impressed with him as Izuku Midoriya, and I mean, if My Hero Academia was done maybe even 10 years ago, you might have just gotten Yuri Lowenthal. And Yuri Lowenthal is amazing as well. But I like the fact that this is someone who I, up until that point, really hadn't discovered. And then, of course,
Hmm.
he showed up in Final Fantasy VII Mission to Bridge to Clouds. So
Nice.
another great role for him as well. But the point is, I like the fact that we are discovering new voice actors almost every day. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, when I saw what was it? Turning Red, the
Mhm.
new Disney Pixar film. With the exception of maybe Sandra Oh, I don't think I recognized a single member of that voice cast.
Yeah.
And I was incredibly impressed with the performances they turned in.
Oh, young Canadians is what they were. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And again, that was amazing. They did a phenomenal job. And even though I hadn't heard of any of them, they're still incredibly talented. And I hope
Yeah,
they
and
continue to do great
I
things.
hope they continue to do more stuff. And like Ali Carvalho, who played Moana, that was her first film gig of any kind ever, and she's been doing some pretty nice film and TV stuff in live action and more.
Yeah.
They got yeah, they just got a leading voice role coming up in something slips my mind.
I mean, they're not doing 9 more Moana animated series like they used to do with the Disney Renaissance movies.
So well, they're yeah, they are doing TV series again for a lot of recent films, but they're keeping it low, Disney Plus and but yeah, not endless sequels. No. Now they do remakes, which arguably not as good as the sequels.
No, not really. I
Just more
personally,
expensive, maybe.
I mean, I give credit where credit is due. I do think that the level of realism they were able to get with the Lion King remake was very good. It was very good to see. But here's the problem. I saw a realistic looking lion and absolutely no expression behind anything the lion was
Yes,
saying.
as many pointed out, they emoted less than real lions do. So
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's again, great job on the technical aspect.
yeah, just
In
need to bring
execution,
some acting to it. Yeah,
not so good. The voice acting, I do think, for that was good. That said,
yeah.
stop calling this the live action Lion King, considering nothing in that movie was actually alive. But yeah. Though somebody tried to say, "Oh, well, is the Jungle Book not the live action?" No, that kid's there. That kid's
Yeah.
breathing.
There's
That
a
kid's
kid there.
alive.
There's a kid.
Everything else is
His
a blue
his
screen.
immediate surroundings are live action. Right?
So I'll bend and say, okay, fine, that's the live action Jungle Book, even though Disney already made a live action Jungle Book starring Lena Headey and John Cleese in the 90s. But yeah, I will concede that that is the live action version of the Jungle Book. And I will admit, I didn't know I ever wanted to hear Christopher Walken sing "I Want to Be Like You."
That
I
was
can't
that.
be
That was good. And with the new Sherman Brothers lyrics that work in the word Gigantopithecus twice, that was a perfect storm right there.
I didn't know I wanted to say that, but out of morbid curiosity, I wanted to say that.
So you've gotten off track in a big way. It's much
Yeah,
bigger than
sorry.
usual. No,
This
I
tends
I
to
love.
happen when we talk.
Yeah, this is big. Anyway, back to yeah, back to me. I did have some of my own impressions lined up. Like I always like to do a little Sam Elliott, right? All right, Sam. And people say, it was 100 degrees in the shade. I walked for 5 days with no water. Oh yeah,
Sounds
like
good.
so. Yeah, people and what a number of people have called the coolest thing they've ever seen was one time I did some Johnny Cash at karaoke.
Go for it.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. That feels good. I think that.
That was good. That was good.
Uh,
Yeah,
and and yeah, what I discovered most most recently, following the death of Sir Gilbert Gottfried, I think I do a pretty good Gilbert Gottfried, which surprised me. I didn't think I had that in me, but I like it very much.
that's actually, yeah, that is much better than I could ever pull
Yeah.
off, and I'm annoyed because I always wish I could do Gilbert Godfrey. I watched Aladdin as many times as I have. I figured I would be able to
Yeah.
eventually do it. I can't. I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah. I'm Gilbert Gottfried, and I say that so you don't go, oh, hey, Gwyneth Paltrow, how'd they get her to do it?
That said, can you sing the Beetle Ball from the Thumbelina?
Uh, yeah,
I'm
well,
kidding.
yeah.
We should leave that in the past and
Yeah.
buried.
Well, there. And yeah, fortunately, Gilbert Gottfried did not sing the Beetle Ball. I think it would have been
No,
better if
no.
he had, because he sang Forget About Love, and that was okay. That was okay.
Mm, I mean, it was one
In
of the
my
few.
opinion,
It was a tolerable aspect of the movie that
yeah.
really begged the question: did we need this? I mean, I loved that movie when I was a kid, but when I saw it as an
Mhm.
adult, I'm like, why did I watch this?
It, it holds up. It's okay. The Aladdin trilogy is okay.
There are, yeah, I will concede the fact that there were a lot worse direct-to-video Disney sequels than that
Yeah.
one. I think that one is just so infamous because it was the first,
Yeah. And hey,
and
when I get
it was the harbinger of what was to come during the Eisner
yes, and
administration.
yeah, I mean
So,
I've covered a few of them on the show doing
yeah.
the Keys and Kingdom segment, and yeah, when I get back to that, which I hope to do around the start of next year, yeah, I'm just it's going to start at the year 2000, so I will have quite a few more of those crummy sequels to get through.
Are you going to start with Fantasia 2000?
Um, yeah, I count that was the last one I did. I counted it as a '99
Oh, okay.
film, so yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were going to count that because I thought that one had a theatrical release, but I couldn't
It did,
remember.
yeah. It is a Disney animated canon film, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
yeah, I did see it in theaters. It was quite good. I think I
I
saw it.
give credit. The music was still phenomenal.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the segment's definitely not quite as impactful and memorable as those in the first Fantasia, but it's
true.
pretty good. Good use of technology.
That said, I would love it if I could see Disney still try to do those kinds of segments.
Yeah, yes,
I
more of those.
mean, they don't even need to be necessarily like a movie, but I mean, they could be more of a series at this point where every week you release a new piece of music as an animated short. Because there are so many phenomenal pieces of music. Heck, even to this day, with more modern classical music composers, because classical's really become more of a genre than
Yeah,
anything else that I think would be pretty interesting. Or heck, use it as an example to introduce more music to the world that they otherwise wouldn't have heard. I mean,
yeah,
there's an entire world of music from, say, Japan or the Middle East
totally.
that we have not heard because we're a bunch of ignorant Westerners.
Yeah,
So I don't know. That's just kind of how I see it. But I don't work for Disney. They haven't bought me yet. They're working on it. Eventually,
Yeah.
they're gonna own all of us. But I don't know. I always thought that would just be kind of a fun idea because I mean, Fantasia is one of those movies that is just so timeless.
It is, yeah, it is an experience for sure, more than
Yes,
anything
I
else in
would
cinema.
love to
Yeah.
see it in theaters again one day.
Yeah. You know they invented surround sound for Fantasia.
I did, yes. But we're getting off track again.
Yeah, yeah, no, I had a few let's see what I like to do a little Josh Groban impression. I like to sing various songs as I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
And see, I'm jealous because I can't really do musical impressions. I don't really sound enough like any particular artist when they sing that I can imitate them. So yeah, I'm actually quite jealous that you can do
Thank you.
that. I mean, the only one I ever tried to do is Michael McDonald, and it is not good. I'm not gonna do it for you here. But yeah, it's that's impressive. That really is
Thank you.
impressive.
Yeah. What was I thinking? I think I was thinking of a few like voice acting tricks that I know, like SpongeBob's laugh, for example. You know, Tom Kenny, he doesn't just laugh like that. He's on his throat. He goes, and you get, for example, Jeff Bennett, who he's been Mr. Smee from Peter Pan in a lot of things, and he found out what he does with his voice is he holds his cheek open like so, and there it is. There's Mr. Smee right there.
It kind of makes me wonder when he did Candlejack. Hello, boys. Did he have to do something particular with his voice that time?
Wait, but
For those of
you,
you not
you
watching, check out Freakazoid. It's
yeah,
amazing.
you said his name. You got to disappear now.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah, that was a big meme a while back. Is that yeah, whenever someone actually said his name, they had to they had to stop their message in mid sentence, post it, and then if you
Yeah.
wonder who was hitting the post button if they were getting kidnapped, but obviously Candlejack hit the post button for them while kidnapping them.
I don't know. I've never gotten this many at once before. Not a very bright group, are you?
I find I do a pretty good Jeff Bennett. In fact, I like to do an impression of a little moment he did on a Gargoyles DVD where he was displaying his own range of characters he plays on Gargoyles, and that exchange went like this: "Hey, that's a bike. Isn't that a cool bike?" "Yes, it is a very cool bike. Unfortunately, we're going to have to blow it up. I'm so sorry, Brooklyn." "Yes, but before you blow it up, I would like to change it into a beautiful woman." And as for one of my tricks, I of course like the classic inward singing, but it's very demonic. "Who
Yes.
dares disturb me?"
Oh boy, I found the Cave of Wonders.
Yes.
Yes, there again, you have a lot of great tricks, but again, I am just so envious that your voice is just that deep that you can do that. I have a more distinct upper register, which only allows me to do so much. And yeah, I mean, I can always sort of do it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but that's about it, neighbor. I can't
Yeah. No,
really go
you can't do Mr. Rogers. You're coming off as creepy, Mr. Rogers. I'm sorry.
I know, but isn't Mr. Rogers already a little creepy?
No.
Oh, come on. I used to say that every time I did Mr. Rogers, it always kind of sounded more like George H.W. Bush. Read my lips. No new taxes, except for the ones I'm going to push on people. And then I'm going to lose re-election to a hillbilly from Arkansas. Yeah, that's right. You lost to me. Rock and roll. But yeah, no, Mr. Rogers being creepy is probably just the fact that, well, I'm creepy. Or I can appear creepy.
Yeah, no, that's why I was kind of looking away to see if maybe your Mr. Rogers was better when I can't see you, but no.
No, I've just always tried it and I've just never
Yeah.
gotten anywhere. It's one I wish I could do better, but I can't.
And I mean, honestly, I have to wonder if I don't think anyone can do Mr. Rogers without sounding creepy. It was just something about him that made him non-creepy, you know?
Presbyterian pastors usually tend to have that effect.
I don't
But
know.
yeah,
So that's yeah, we've been having a great time. This has been much more expansive, exciting segment than I thought it would be. Let's talk about a bit about what's in store for us. We're working on a little project
certainly.
called Grease, Gum, and Mud, in which we do some
Yep.
video game playthroughs and also voice some characters who riff on the game as they play it. And it's been really freaking hard to come up with joke after joke. We've just been rewatching our footage and just, making jokes as we go a second time to try to get some semblance of a script going. And we've had to take a little break from it because it's a lot of hard work. But we
Yeah.
will return. Excited. You will see Grease, Gum, and Mud playing Until Dawn at some point. That'll be a good place
Mhm.
to start because it's short. But it's still, yeah, it's 6 hours of ripping we got to do. And
Yeah. But again, we have a good framework. I think for us, once we just figure out what's the flow that we can be the most productive, I think once we figure that out, I think the rest of these will start coming out on a slightly more regular basis.
absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I know this channel's never been exceedingly good at pumping out the content. We've been we've been working on big stuff, and that has been kind of distracting me from the regular tasks of putting out the podcast and things, and
Yeah.
which again I've never been good at regardless. So but we hope we'll find time for some smaller things and streaming games, doing little comedy skits. And we've also been talking about creating some voice acting demos to get some freelance work, so you might see us elsewhere.
At some point.
And we've had some new big ideas as of late. Obviously it is too late to go around to talking about them on the internet, but Macy's, whatever you feel you could tell the audience about your novel and new play idea.
Sure. Yeah. Well, for the novel, I've always really liked various video games that are these grand sort of epic tales. Some of my favorite examples include Dragon Quest, Tales of Symphonia, and Fire Emblem. You know, those tales that involve a lot of characters that are larger than life and deal with, a lot of interesting fantasy concepts. And yet, something that's always bothered me about that and a lot of chosen one narratives is the idea that this big unstoppable evil force can literally only be stopped by one plucky underdog because some dumbass in a temple said, yeah, only this person can kill this thing. And it's like, you've got militias, you've got armies, you've got commanders, you've got people who are just as capable, especially in the realm of the game. You've got all these things, but only one person is allowed to actually do something. And so that kind of got me thinking, what is the tale of other people wanting to be the hero in a world where only one person actually can be?
Hmm.
And so my idea is just kind of a send up of this idea of a chosen one narrative of someone who wants to be the hero, who for a while it looks like they might be the chosen one. And then it's like, oh, okay, I'm not the chosen one. So now what do I do?
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of the idea. And honestly, the only thing I could think of that it could work as would be that of a novel of some sort. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still figuring out where I want all the narrative beats to be before I actually compile my thoughts together and actually sit down and write it. So that's where that one currently is. And the other one is another stage play I would like to get off the ground. Um, as a middle child, I certainly have dealt with a lot of crap in regards to, having a relationship with my brothers, and we have a good relationship between my younger brother and my older brother. I have good relationships with them, but anyone who has siblings, I mean, Sage, you have two sisters. Anyone who has siblings knows that sometimes there can't help but be a little bit of comparison, maybe not always intentionally, but there cannot help but be a little bit of comparison between you and your siblings.
Mhm.
And so I'm combining that with the fact that I am a sucker for meta narrative work. The idea of the process of movies about making movies or shows about making shows. And so I kind of took that idea and thought, okay, it's a story about two successful brothers whose careers are starting to be on the decline, the downswing. One is a writer who had a lot of success at the beginning of his career, and part of that success was writing roles for his younger brother to be the star of his screenplays. And they both experienced great success and, fantastic achievement. But ever since they stopped working together, now neither of them is really succeeding. And so part of it's coming from this idea of the older brother is envious of the younger brother for getting to be the movie star, and the younger brother is envious of the older brother for getting to be the more cerebral and artistic one, um, because comparisons have always kind of drove drove them to their particular fields, thinking, oh, you're the smart one, you should handle this. Oh, you're the good looking one, you should just do this. And the envy that they both feel for what the other success ended up being. And now that they have to work together in order to try and save their careers, the keg of gunpowder that is eventually going to go off when they eventually start working together and realize it's not as conducive as they thought it would be.
You told him everything there. I wasn't expecting that.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's the theme I want to go with. The problem is I just need to actually start writing it. That one will probably take a lot less time to actually get done, but
yeah,
no,
but
I
I
feel
think
comfortable telling people this. This is the idea because I think anyone with siblings knows what it's like to try and not view someone else, well, not just siblings, sometimes good friends, the idea of trying to view somebody else's success does not constitute a failure of your own
oh
accomplishments.
yes.
And that can be really hard for people sometimes. It's like, you're doing great, you're doing wonderful, you got all this stuff. Why am I sucking at it? You know?
Yeah.
That's the theme I want to go with.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, it might not take too long, and we're hoping in addition to all our ambitious project, we can try to put together some just some staged filmed kind of things that we can crack out as more quickly without quite so much of a pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I recently learned a bit about the movie Paranormal Activity. I didn't see it, maybe I should, but just the general idea of it inspired me, and I thought, okay, the found footage, sometimes it doesn't make sense, but Paranormal Activity definitely made it. It definitely put its premise together in a way that made the whole thing make sense, and also proved the very much proved the adage about found footage is that it's cheap but profitable, as it is very possibly the most profitable film of all time. And that just gave me the idea. What if I did like a horror comedy? Like I'd say mostly a horror, but just with a bit of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to it. And I thought, what if there was a horror film that takes place entirely as if it's footage of a YouTube charity live stream? And you get like maybe the five members of this channel who are like, yeah, what I thought of this premise is that it's like they're a channel who does kind of paranormal investigation, and as they're as they're in 5 different places on their Zoom call live streaming, each one is beset by a different genre of horror, and and mostly are all just shocked that they're actually seeing something, but for whatever reason, perhaps just complete insensitivity and greed. I mean, I don't know. I don't like having to do that in my horror, but but perhaps they keep the live stream going for for as long as it takes us to tell the story.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that you mentioned that idea, and it's like, you know what, I'm on board because so very rarely can horror and comedy get blended together in a way that's successful. Tucker and Dale is like the only one I can think of. I mean, arguably Scream, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't really
Scream.
consider that a comedy, but
Yeah.
um
But you should yeah, we should start getting you into Hatchetfield. That's what Team Star Kid's working on right now, and it's this big
okay.
horror comedy anthology. It's quite good.
Well, and that's just it. The only way we're going to get better horror comedy movies is if people keep trying to make them.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with falling down. It's just that you learn something when you get up.
totally.
So, yeah, I'm so when you mentioned that idea, it's like awesome. I like the idea, and I like the attempt you're going to try and make for a horror comedy movie.
Yeah.
Now, that said, you mentioned 5 different genres of horror. What are some of them?
Um, I don't want to tell you now. I'll tell you in a moment when
Okay.
we're done here. Okay.
I'm only asking because I'm honestly having a hard time thinking of 5. I can only think of like psychological and then, bloody, gross and
Yeah.
blood.
Well, it's
So
all good. It's all got to be psychological, but okay.
no, I'm
Yeah.
just saying I don't watch enough horror movies to really know the various genres, if you will.
Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you in a minute. For now, I think we can wrap this up. Far as all the feedback on Better Yet that we've gotten, it seems everyone's favorite is Ryan. It's just so much fun to wish he would just shut up. Right? And we're still early in production on a regular fantasy, and what the crew has seen. Everyone says their favorite is Mordecai and his roguish, chaotic bisexual energy. So I think we've got a real breakout star on our hands here, everybody. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I always found it interesting because I mean I was not initially your first choice to play Mordecai, so I'm pleased I'm giving you a performance that you can be proud of, and I hope I continue to make you proud.
Yeah, and I am sure you will. I'm sure we're only just getting started.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I'm
Thank
glad
you for
I
having me.
yeah, I'm glad I mentioned it. Now I gotta do the rest of this episode in a hurry now if this thing isn't gonna get stale. So yeah, that's it's a good motivator right there, having other people do it, and that's something I'm trying to do more. Trying to do less by myself because when there are other eyes on me, I work better for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will. So yeah, we'll wrap this up now, and yeah, thanks for watching. Podcast review time. Tapas podcast number 5 was released on Christmas Day of 2018. Simpler times. I really did get them out every week back then. Can't even imagine. We start as ever in the Companions of the Dance Hall segment. In the present, I'm reprioritizing Companions of the Dance Hall, my Dungeons & Dragons musical. It's what I started Tapas with the intent of making. I want to try it. I'm going to do Act 1, Scene 1 as kind of a pilot, a proof of concept. Anyway, in Podcast 5, I naturally did Act 1, Scene 5. The Harple Hill scene, kind of an unnecessary scene. We could cut it out. Thinking of turning the 5-hour musical into like a mini-series of a few episodes, instead of trying to pass it off as a feature-length thing. It's more like double feature-length. That's where my head's at right now. In the Team Salmon segment, I talked about the original idea for what became Keys and Kingdoms, a reenactment of Kingdom Hearts. I now once again call that project Kingdom Butts, now that the title Keys and Kingdoms is going to be used for a fully original setting. This is all from the very brief period where I wanted Kingdom Butts to actually be an original IP, and thus I changed all the characters' names. I'm going back to making it a parody, and we'll be using the real names of every character who appears in Kingdom Hearts. And KB is something I'm also reprioritizing in my current agenda. So yeah, back then I changed Sora's name to Kukino, Kairi's to Mizuka, and Riku's to Yamato, Japanese names with roughly the same meaning and vibe as the original names. Donald I was going to call Kalayanka, his Swedish name, and Goofy would have been Dingo, his French name, while Mickey was going to be Moisha, based on very old jokes about him being a Jewish immigrant. I don't know. I had other ideas, but I've forgotten them since I'm not doing that anymore. They'll just be the characters they were originally, but in the Keys and Kingdoms art style. But it will not be set in the Keys and Kingdoms world, because it'll be a parody. And it will not diverge from the Kingdom Hearts series more and more as it goes on, because that would be just too hard. I'm going to stick with, just keep sticking to the events of the series and just making fun of them. Then I did Book 5 of The Secrets of Droon. Rereading Droon is another thing I'm reprioritizing, as is adapting it someday, though my hope of getting it done by 2029 for the series' 30th anniversary is not going to happen at the pace things go around here, though. I'm looking into a plan to speed things up. Thing is, there's no pressure on me to get anything done around here. I need pressure, and I think I have some ideas for making that happen. We'll see. In the Keys and Kingdoms segment, we watched Bambi, concluding the golden age of Disney. Not much lore to speak of in Bambi, and in total honesty, there's not much lore from Disney that's gone into Keys and Kingdoms at all. Anyway, it's mostly just the art style and vibes, and I don't know. I'll try to keep doing the lore thing. It was fun to listen to my recaps, though. I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to start 2 Keys and Kingdoms podcasts. One that continues the collection into the year 2000 and beyond. One that starts over from the beginning, recaps my thoughts into videos that people can actually find. My sisters were so silly in this. I wish I could have continued having them around, or Natty. I don't like doing this stuff alone. Most of the time I've got no choice. It's, like I said, there's no pressure. I've decided to redo the Gargoyles retrospective all by myself. It'll be better that way because it's been so many years since they were recorded with Natty and my sisters, but, I'll miss their contributions, but it's just gotta be done. Gosh, I'm reprioritizing nearly everything that was mentioned in podcast number 5 all these years ago. Is that too much stuff? Probably, but every step forward is a step forward. I've been stuck on this podcast for like a month, not counting the 2+ years I just didn't get around to it, but now it's back to being done. It's back to being actively worked on. Just gotta keep up that mindset. Okay, fanfiction segment. This'll be difficult. It's been 2 years. It's now even more my early work than it was before. I've started to even have pangs of regret when I remember my 2 most recent fics, the ones I never finished. Not because I regret that I didn't finish them, but for the content, for the writing, for being my early work. Anyway, when last we left the cast of Maximum Ride, the 6 members of the flock, the quartet of European OCs I had brewed up in the previous installment, and 2 others, 1 original and 1 semi-canonical, they were crossing the U.S. to get back to their benefactors. I forget who was doing the benefacting at the time. I think an organization only vaguely alluded to in the books that I made a bigger deal of. Max doesn't like or trust benefactors. She never sticks with them in canon, but in this case I suppose she's on her way back to them for lack of anywhere else to go for safety. You know what? I'm gonna re-listen to the first 3 segments of this story. I just don't know where we're at. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. Chapter 28. Chapter 28, they're flying over a classy neighborhood, and I'm glad I did my little re-listen. I thought this would be where we're going to meet Fang's mother, but we already did that part. The neighborhood is seemingly just there for a very good line where Max says the only way they'll end up in a place like that, a swanky place like this, is as taxidermy. That's a good line, if I say so myself. That's admittedly a very on-brand line there. The OC twins, Jackson Fallon, apologize to Gazzy for sexually assaulting him. Jax fake apologizes. That's a recurring motif in my writings, how to properly apologize. Fallon apologizes for real, but Gazzy can't forgive, naturally, which sends Jax into a rage. Redeeming quality for Jax, I guess. They get in a brawl, but soon they're attacked from the ground by firebombs and lasers from a building marked Valducci family compound. Their new weapon, the Heartbeat, turns out it can both counterattack and heal the wounds they receive in the battle. The name Valducci doesn't ring a bell for anyone. It's a new element, but as they escape, Nudge finds that the Heartbeat can also counterfeit money. That's a setting. Basically, it's a Star Trek replicator. It can create anything because, thanks to the shaky logic from earlier, it has infinite energy it can convert into matter. That's what's going on there. So, with their now unlimited budget, they make their way to the mall. I don't know where this is going. Maybe something similar to the toy store scene from the first book? I don't know. As they make their way to the mall, we have perspective from Tui, who is still working on her fine motor skills, apparently. They arrive at a mall, not bothering to conceal their bird-winged nature, which Max can't anyway since she's a cyborg now, so not bothering to be undercover. They meet a parking lot attendant called Isaac, who turns out to be a fan of theirs and offers to be their guide through the mall. As they shop, Tui finds herself annoyed with Sean's flirtations with other girls, to Imogen's amusement. Chapter 30, they get a hotel. They book every room on that floor. With that done, they start getting the regular humans from the wreckage of the Needle-Nose 2. Oh, they did not prioritize the people in that plane crash at all, did they? When everyone gets to their rooms, the canonical original flock hangs out in a single room, just socially. The 6 originals, plus Tui and, I think, Aerie. I assume Aerie. They play some cards, talk about stuff, and Tui feels all stiff at the revelation that Sean has a girl in his room. The others tell her not to worry too much about it, while she remains completely oblivious to her own self having feelings for Sean. Chapter 31. Okay, I knew this was coming, wasn't looking forward to this. Gazzy goes to Fallon and apologizes to her for not forgiving her for sexually assaulting him. What was I thinking there? Like I said before, it's verbally stated in the story that it's just as bad when a girl assaults a guy, but it's certainly not narratively treated that way. It's done poorly. Pretty not great. I will say this. Sexual assault is generally considered a shorthand for the completely unforgivable, worse than murder. And for the most part, that's valid, but the thing is, our culture has not always taught that no means no, you know? So I think people who didn't know that, who realize they committed sexual assault only after, you can't diminish the harm they've done. They must face consequences, but nor should their lives be over. But, no, I shouldn't have had Gazzy forgive her, or... No, strike that. I shouldn't have made the twins do that in the first place. I should have had them betray him in some other way. Jeez. But yeah, you know, I mean, I think ignorance of the law is a pretty valid excuse, and, you know, the laws, the rules around consent are something that society's still working on, you know? You know what else I shouldn't have done? I shouldn't have phonetically transcribed the characters' accents, Imogen and Sean being Irish while the twins are Cockney, but... well, that was standard procedure in those days. Anyway, Fallon seduces Gazzy and they start a relationship. I'm displeased with my young self there. Also noteworthy, the earlier battle with the building has left Fallon burn-scarred and thus no longer identical to Jax. I just wanted to remember that part for later review. Yes. Chapter 32, you know, I think my young self managed pretty well to emulate Max's snarky narration from the books, at least now and then. They're at the breakfast buffet. The hotel has been keeping the fans and admirers off of them. Gazzy comes back from a shower with Fallon. Brief reminder that the characters are 3 or 4 years older than they were in canon, but in Gazzy's case is still too young to be showering with a girl. But as I said before, I was 18 and going on memories of how I perceived myself and my peers when I was 12. Those memories were not accurate. Had I seen a 12-year-old recently, I would have realized that, but I had not at that time. Still, like I said, I was going off my memories. 12-year-old boys want to shower with girls. Doesn't mean anyone should write that into stories. My bad. All I can say, my bad. Angel approves of Gazzy being with Fallon and decides to continue her matchmaking skills by exposing that Tui and Sean like each other, so they start dating. And then the director busts in. That's another way I managed to emulate Max's narration and just how the cliffhangers are handled. cats, but you get the boys got the zoomies something awful here, these cats. Chapter 33, Janssen enters in an armored robot suit. Apparently that's what it takes to get her to enter combat. Kelly is there with her, and Max goes for trying to reason with Kelly. Both Janssen and Max try to coax Kelly over to their side, but eventually Kelly shrieks, "I'm not an animal!" And her reflex, regrettably, is to leap upon Max and snap her neck. Chapter 34, Max finds herself in an endless field of dewy grass, in perfect health with no scars, wearing her favorite outfit. She quickly realizes this is the afterlife, and she speaks with Ari Batchelder, Jeb's son, a main villain who switched to Max's side and ultimately died in Book 3 of Maximum Ride, and was the namesake for Max's daughter, Ari, here in the fanfic. Ari quickly tells Max that she's not actually dead, but when you're dead, the only thing you truly need is knowledge, and Ari wants to tell Max something he's learned. Chapter 35, Ari brings Max to the cliffside from the first Maximum Ride book, where Fang and Nudge briefly lived among a huge flock of hawks. He shows a future, where after the villains of this story, the survivors, are defeated, the nebulous they from the actual series implements their plan. A 35-year-old Max leads a new flock of mutants specially designed for her, with none of her actual flock mates anywhere in sight. Each of the 6 has their own flock, each of them designed for rapid propagation of the bird mutant species. And Ari, Max's daughter Ari, is designed to be her... destined to be her ultimate enemy. Max refuses to accept that this is the future, and Ari approves. That's what he was going for. That after the survivors are defeated, she has to fight this future. Chapter 36. In this chapter, Keegan and Niles reconnect with Keegan's parents, whom she abandoned years ago. Bridget is approached by one Sand Valducci, clearly a part of them. You know, they. Though Bridget doesn't want to be a bad guy again, Sand assures her this is all for the good of Fang's future. And we pop back into Max's first-person perspective as she awakens. She keeps a secret of what she saw in the beyond and asks everyone who's ready to fly. Okay, well, this segment started in the slump that the previous segment was in, but I got reinvested again. I'm glad to be going through this, and then one more book of Maximum Ride fanfic, and we can move on to other fanfics, which I'm excited about, if only because it'll get us out of the lengthy Max stuff, fanfics about things that maybe people in the audience have actually seen, right? I appreciate what I did here, what I gleaned and learned about my past work, It's not all rosy and worthy, but it all exists. It's all part of my growing process. Today in the Inspirations segment, we're talking about 5 computer games from the late 90s and early 2000s made with the Infinity Engine by Black Isle Studios. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Icewind Dale 1 and 2, and Planescape Torment. I figured at first that most people would have very little context for this particular piece of inspiration from my past. Well, in the years I've been sitting on this episode, I definitely don't have to provide as much context as I may have before, for Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year and became just the biggest gaming sensation ever. All the stuff that makes Baldur's Gate 3 great, the dialogue, the pulse-pounding combat, adapting Dungeons & Dragons in one of its worlds, the branching story, the role-playing options, the stellar voice acting. Baldur's Gate 2 had all that 24 years ago. Torment had it the year before. Can't really credit Baldur's Gate 1 or the Icewind Dale games with being as stellar as the other two, but they're still good. Whole series of games to make you say, that's not a game at all, that's like fucking Shakespeare. Let's see. I'm not sure how to approach this. I did books, I talked for hours about all I could remember about the books. Funny thing, I've never actually finished an Infinity Engine game. A lot of people can relate, I know now. A lot of people have never finished Baldur's Gate 3 either. They just keep going through the first act with new characters, so I can relate. My one time seriously playing Baldur's Gate 1, I played with my sisters, and they kept wanting to start over with a new character, and I was like, no, we need to finish the story, come on. While I was thinking, yeah, that's what I used to do when I was playing Baldur's Gate 2 over and over, kinda over and over, never getting very far. We didn't get the chance, life got away from us. But I did at least manage to successfully prevent them from, starting over. We did just continue the story, but never finished it, never got the chance. Baldur's Gate came out in 1998 and was the first game that people found really captured the D&D experience in computer game form. It was sillier than other games made with the engine, still had a story you could take seriously, but a lot of it was goofy, like a D&D campaign you're trying to hold together. Had a huge open world and a plethora of optional places to explore and level grind before getting back to the story. Most of the games ran on 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons rules, which were nearing the end of their life at that point. 3rd edition came out in 2000. Baldur's Gate is an intrigue story about learning the source of an iron shortage across the Sword Coast, the most popular locale in D&D's most popular setting, the Forgotten Realms. You start in the library fortress of Candlekeep. Whatever else you've decided about your character, you are an orphan raised by a great wizard. And when he gets quickly dispatched, as wizardly mentors do, you have to explore the Sword Coast and investigate this mystery, finally ending up in the massive city of Baldur's Gate itself. Also, an absurd amount of optional side areas to explore for collecting gear and experience points. It's just about impossible for a player to uncover all of the secrets. It's a low-level campaign that often turns deadly. Combat in the Infinity Engine is generally less forgiving than encounters you'll have in tabletop because, if you have a deadly encounter in a computer game, you can just reload a saved game. If you have a deadly encounter in tabletop, you're generally expected to somehow continue the story with your old characters now dead. Opponents can often be encountered well before you're ready for them, requiring you to sneak past them, take a chance and ambush them, or simply come back much, much later. All 5 games are played with a party of up to 6 characters. In the first Baldur's Gate, 25 recruitable companions exist out in the game's world. Most are rather one-note, kind of jerks and idiots, their personality only seen before you recruit them, and those you encounter by the time you reach Baldur's Gate itself are too underleveled to really bother with. But many of them have unique special abilities and might exchange a line or two of dialogue with each other now and then. Despite the lack of development, many players grew attached to the various characters through, guiding them in combat, so nearly all of them come back, or at least have cameos in Baldur's Gate 2. The expansion pack, Baldur's Gate Tales of the Sword Coast, offers a few higher-level areas to explore after the game ends, to pick up a few levels before importing your character into Baldur's Gate 2, which, incidentally, is totally a thing you can do. Planescape Torment from 1999 was quite different from the other games in the series, for one thing taking place in the multiversal Planescape D&D setting instead of the Forgotten Realms like the others. It's almost more of a visual novel than an RPG, with an encyclopedia-length breadth of role-playing options, a study of the psychology of people and the nature of the universe. Instead of creating a character, you play as the Nameless One, an ancient and decaying man who's lost his memories but soon finds he cannot die. Leveling up is characterized as memories coming back to him of the many past lives he's led. The story is primarily a mystery, seeking out the Nameless One's own past to determine how he came to be the amnesiac corpse he is today. In the setting of Planescape, you start in the city of Sigil. Yes, the Matthew Mercer pronunciation of that word is in fact correct when applied to the Planescape city. A tiny pocket universe where anything that people believe strongly enough becomes true, and anything can be a portal to anywhere in the D&D multiverse. Combat in Torment is simple and often tedious. The Nameless One can't die, so being killed just results in the party being magically transported to the nearest inn or morgue where he just wakes up, and can easily resurrect its fallen companions, so it's just not given that much focus. It's a role-playing game that's really about the dialogue and conversations. On very few occasions is fighting completely necessary. There are only 7 recruitable companions, and yet arbitrarily you can still only travel with 5 of them. Each is an incredibly strange creature with a unique combat repertoire. More importantly, they're all tormented individuals like the Nameless One himself, many of whom knew him in his past lives where he wickedly used them for his own ends. The Nameless One can uncover their secrets through conversation and role-playing, and though he cannot atone for the huge breadth of sin he's committed over his many lifetimes, he can at least earn the forgiveness and adoration of his companions. Or do very much the opposite and keep them on as his abused lackeys. For, well, it's pretty difficult to be anything other than heroic in the Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale games. An evil run of Torment is quite viable, much like in Baldur's Gate 3. Evil runs noted as being particularly distressing to play due to the cruelty required. Icewind Dale, year 2000, is a dungeon crawler. You create your entire adventuring party from scratch and send them off on a linear story, the focus being on the locations to explore and monsters to fight. primarily taking place in the Forgotten Realms' frozen north, Icewind Dale. The final boss sets up shop in the starting town where everything was safe at the beginning. That's always a nice touch. Not much to say about the combat system in the game. I'd say it's the most balanced and satisfying combat experience in the engine. It has 2 expansion packs. Heart of Winter, a mini-campaign involving barbarian tribes of the north, which you can access about halfway through the main campaign or afterward, and Trials of the Lure Master, an even smaller campaign accessible in the middle of Heart of Winter. I'm not sure what it's about. There are no companions waiting out in the world for you, the player creates their entire party. I try to make it fun by giving them a theme, which is why the very first TAPAS project was the beginning of a playthrough of Icewind Dale with custom content for the irregular webcomic characters, and an attempt at a full cast to perform all the dialogue, which was tons of fun. Once I'm done with Dungeon Siege, I'm going to do it again with these characters, minus the full cast, which was hard work, and now I want to make a full playthrough of all 5 Infinity Engine games without all the glitches and such I ran into in the first run. Still archived on the channel if for some reason you'd want to watch it. It inspired our series of regular fantasy at any rate, which makes it worth quite a bit of something if you ask me. Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Am, also from 2000. Before Baldur's Gate 3 became the standard by which all RPGs are measured, there was Baldur's Gate 2. How about that? At the expense of not having quite as much material as its predecessor, all characters and story elements were deeply layered, well-written, and emotional, especially in building relationships, sometimes romantic, with your party members. Since 3rd edition was out at this point, they added some 3rd edition content to this 2nd edition game. You could be a half-orc, and you could take the new classes, a barbarian, monk, or sorcerer. The story is primarily a hunt, a pursuit of our main villain, John Irenicus, a soulless, evil wizard voiced by David Warner, who we mentioned earlier in this episode was a very solid Ra's al Ghul. It begins with a long escape from his dungeon, and you emerge into Am, a Mediterranean-inspired part of the realms. Despite being Baldur's Gate 2, you never do set foot in Baldur's Gate. You must collect 20,000 gold pieces to pursue your captor, allowing for a ton of freeform exploration of the world and fulfillment of many optional grand quests. Afterward, it's a trip to the island Asylum, then a trek through the Underdark, and back to the open world briefly before pursuing Irenicus to his elven city, and finally, Hell itself. The writer, David Gator, said that the process of writing a computer RPG is just like being a dungeon master. Anticipate everything a player might want to do and actively give them the option to do so. So at least that's how conversations work in the game. Dungeon crawls and quests a bit less so, but yeah. The game begins at level 7 or so, the first game's level cap, and while you start against fairly low-level opponents, making the game seem a bit too easy at the beginning, as it progresses there are some truly epic tactical encounters with dragons, demon lords, and powerful wizard. I, for one, never learned how to properly take on the game's toughest enemies. I do hope that when I play these games once again, I can do that. The number of recruitable companions is notably reduced, down to 16, but nobody's complaining. Every single party member is a unique individual with heaps of characterization, and every one of them viable for the party due to being relatively easy to find. They now engage in lengthy conversations with each other, seek to get to know your protagonist better, and often pipe up in dialogue with NPCs. They have minds of their own and will make themselves heard if the protagonist or another companion does something they find objectionable. Most famously, the protagonist can enter into a romantic relationship with some of the companions, which would become a staple of the studio and later of Baldur's Gate 3. The expansion pack, Baldur's Gate 2 Throne of Baal, is basically the 3rd installment of a trilogy, which is why there wasn't really any demand for a Baldur's Gate 3 until a generation later. Taking place after the conflict with Irenicus, its story arc involves reaching truly epic levels of power and achieving divine destiny as the continent erupts in chaos and war. And the farewell to the system was Icewind Dale 2 in 2002. The only game in the system to run on 3rd edition rules, it was straight-up tactical combat, every encounter being a challenge set in a unique and interesting situation. The only game where you start at level 1 and reach truly epic levels by the end, unless of course you play Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and Throne of Baal with the same character. It's a linear story like its predecessor, starting with repelling a goblin invasion upon the 10 towns of Icewind Dale, then tracking down the conspiracy behind the much larger army the goblins worked for, with much exploration of the icy mountains before you start crawling dungeons, eventually infiltrating the Legion's lair and taking down the 2 half-demon siblings behind it all. Once again, the entire party has to be custom made, but this time 5 pre-made parties are included on the main menu to make things easier. I'm going to create custom content again to play the game as the Order of the Stick. In the 2010s, the studio Beamdog made enhanced editions of the Infinity Engine games. Baldur's Gate in 2012, Baldur's Gate 2 in 2013, and Icewind Dale in 2014. They lost the source code to Icewind Dale 2, so they couldn't enhance that one. I have no interest in this content. I'll be playing the original versions of each, which remain available at GOG.com, thankfully. Though I must admit I'm intrigued by what the Torment Enhanced Edition, released in 2017, might have going for it. Learned about that just now. I'm admittedly curious. In 2016, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition got an expansion pack called Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear, which bridged the gap between Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2, featuring some of the voice actors, including David Warner and David Ogden Stiers, coming back to record new material. That's somewhat more interesting than the Enhanced Edition itself. And then, Baldur's Gate 3 was not made with the Infinity Engine. It has full 3D graphics and such, but it was a very, very worthy successor, even if it was somewhat distant. I remember first hearing about Baldur's Gate 3 when it was in early access, and I just assumed it would have nothing to do with the first 2 games and would end up completely forgotten. Then the trailers for the full release came out and revealed that Minsc and Jaheira were back, and yeah, it became clear that it really was going to fully transfer the Infinity Engine spirit into the modern gaming scene. Truly incredible. The most amazing thing about Baldur's Gate 3 is that its script, which like Torment's has been compared to an encyclopedia in its length, is fully 100% voice-acted and mocapped, an ambition of the director. I think it's a bit excessive, but you can't deny it's what makes every NPC so memorable. Acted material offers a much greater connection than just reading the text. We learned that when I did Icewind Dale, and we really fell in love with Elysia and Jonin and Pomab and other characters who I just really didn't think much of before. The gaming industry has made it clear that a game with this level of voice acting is unlikely to ever happen again. The director, Sven Vink, had a sentiment similar to what Gator said. You have to invest fully in those things that only 0.1% of the players are going to see. For the most prominent example, BG3 has the Speak with Animals and Speak with Dead spells, and that means every animal and every named corpse, at least, has something to say. It's definitely an evolved form of the Infinity Engine, even using the same icons for all the spells that carry over. It's 5th edition options. The story is split into 3 acts, whereas the Infinity Engine games are split into many more chapters than that. Expansion packs have evolved into DLC, but the creators decided there wouldn't be any BG3 DLC, just repair patches that add extra scenes and even endings. Where the Infinity Engine games very cleverly converted tabletop D&D's turn-based combat into a real-time engine, BG3 goes full D&D and is turn-based. The level cap is low at 12, as the devs found that spells and abilities of characters level 13 and up are too story-breaking for a computer RPG. But the original Infinity Engine games managed, so let's see what the future holds for 5th edition-based games. More than any of the games before, the companions are the very soul of BG3, and you can only travel with a group of 4 at a time instead of 6. But meanwhile, party members you aren't using remain at your camp, which you can visit at any time, so you can keep all their subplots going. There are 10 total companions, 6 main ones and 4 others that are more supporting characters, 2 of which return from the original Baldur's Gate duology, Minsc and Jaheira, like I said. And the role-playing, it's just more in-depth than what the Infinity Engine can offer, maybe equal to Torment, if not greater. The ability to play good or evil is mapped out at every turn, though the game does not use the alignment system, instead measuring your morality by how certain companions approve or disapprove of your actions. In conclusion, like I said, everything that made BG3 explode in popularity had its seeds planted in the Infinity Engine games over 20 years earlier. I hope to make my own games in this vein one day. Either way, it's taught me a lot of lessons about adventure paths and characterization. Let's see, that was the end of my script, but that can't be the conclusion. Surely there must be more to say after all I went through in the book segments. Worth mentioning is that Baldur's Gate 2 was easily more than half of what ignited my interest in voice acting, when I realized that a lot of the voices I was hearing in Baldur's Gate 2 were the same actors I was hearing in the Toon Disney reruns I watched every day. I guess as a kid, some part of me thought that if actors weren't known celebrities, it was just the writers and animators at the studio doing the voices, which does happen occasionally, but mostly no. There's a whole profession of cartoon and video game voice actors who freelance for all the studios. And for a long portion of my life, that's what I was hoping to be after I discovered that profession. I do voices, I act and sing. It seems like a natural fit for me. Still going to be something I do heavily on this channel, at the very least. So that's a big deal. Voice acting and D&D, some of the biggest influences on my life, both introduced by Baldur's Gate 2. Which, yes, is why Critical Role is on the list later on. I discovered the premise of that, and I was like, oh, that's just for me. Because I played a lot of Baldur's Gate 2 over the years. It's only in adulthood that I've really tried exploring the other games, and I really do hope to finally finish them on the channel. One attempt was the very first project on the channel. Gonna start over pretty soon. Gonna start Icewind Dale again, and hopefully do all the rest with custom content. But, yeah, the only one I can really go in depth on is Baldur's Gate 2, so let's do spoilers, pretty much. And how did it all begin? It was when my mom was first dating my first stepfather, my sister Zia's dad. And he was playing it. He was in the 5th chapter of the 7-chapter story, where you're in the Underdark. The first thing I saw was him playing this moment where there are portals to the elemental realms, and earth elementals walk through, and every time you kill one, another one comes through until you run out. There are others for air and fire elementals, because for some reason there are no water elementals in BG2. In Icewind Dale 1, there are no air elementals. In Icewind Dale 2, you finally get all 4. Shortly after was the first time I saw Beholders, possibly D&D's most iconic original creation. The hero he played as was an elf archer named Glorfindel, clearly named for Glorfindel of Lord of the Rings. And like a lot of people, I took a special note of one of his companions, Minsk. Minsk is basically the mascot of the Baldur's Gate duology, a violently insane ranger who channels that violent insanity toward those who harm the innocent. Butt-kicking for goodness, as he calls it. He's crazy, sure, but he's one of the most noble heroes you'll ever meet. Sure, he thinks the hamster he carries around is from space and talks to him, but on the other hand, he's kept the hamster healthy and happy. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't have any agenda or personal side quests like a lot of the other companion characters, but he's easily the most iconic of them, a staple of nearly every game of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 that's ever been played. Minsk was voiced by Jim Cummings, one of the most celebrated voice actors in history, and they made sure to bring in another icon when they brought him back for Baldur's Gate 3. They hired Matthew Mercer himself, honored to be there as he was a huge fan of both Jim and the original duology. So let's do a recap like I did for the books, for Animorphs and Myth Adventures. Let's recap it as briefly as I possibly can. And I'll just let it speak for itself as far as how those stories have influenced me. As I think I mentioned earlier, Baldur's Gate 2 starts in a dungeon. The 2-level dungeon of Irenicus is the opening area. It's Chapter 1. There are mods to bypass it because it's the same every time. People want to get to Chapter 2, but me, I don't think I could ever tire of it. Then you emerge into Athkatla for Chapter 2, and that's where I spent most of my childhood, in Chapter 2, trying to collect the 20,000 gold pieces that can get you to Chapter 3. There are lots and lots of quests to choose from, choosing where to be thrifty and where to buy gear. Primarily, you'll be guided to one of 8 quests called the Stronghold quests. There's one for every 2nd edition character class, and if your hero is of that class, by completing the quest you get a stronghold out of it. It becomes your base of operations, your responsibility, and you continue to receive additional quests related to that area. Let's see, I've seldom completed any of the stronghold quests either. I'll make that an objective later on to complete all 8 in a playthrough. The Fighter Stronghold quest, also available to barbarians and monks. They didn't give the 3rd edition classes their own. But it starts where many of the quests start, at Athkatla's signature dingy bar, the Copper Coronet, where companion Nalia de Arnis is seeking help. Her family's castle up in the mountains has been overrun by trolls. Once you drive out their leader, if you're a warrior type, you can be made steward of the castle and help them rebuild. If you're a thief, you're encouraged to seek out the local thieves guild, the Shadow Thieves, and help them take down a rival. You're then put in charge of the rival's assets as a Thieves Guild member in good standing yourself. In the Cleric Stronghold quest, you head to the city's temple district, where the cult to a supposed deity called the Unseeing Eye is pulling in big numbers. The local priests of the Forgotten Realms gods need adventurers to investigate the cult. I'm not super familiar with this one because it's fairly difficult, but it'll be the one I start with since I'll be playing with my sister's character, a cleric. If you're a cleric, defeating the cult gives you high standing with one of the 3 major gods who have their temples in the city. If you're a wizard or sorcerer, you're encouraged to seek out the Cowled Wizards, the wizard guild who practically run the city, and forbid anyone else in the city from using arcane magic. It's a pain in the ass. Fortunately, in this game, it's only enforced outdoors, and you don't get in a ton of fights outdoors in Athkatla. Anyway, they have you investigate the Planar Sphere, a gigantic spherical structure which has recently reappeared in the middle of the city. No one can get in, no one's coming out, but presumably it's the evil wizard Lavok who left with it who's still in there. You have to hunt down his descendant, the Ranger Valigar, to get you in. I've never finished this one. I assume the sphere itself becomes your stronghold, since it's a permanent spot on the map. The Paladin Stronghold quest is the most iconic. Also at the Copper Coronet, you meet one Lord Firecrag, who wants you to hunt down some evil ogres on his land in the Windspear Hills. After killing the ogres, you find out that they were actually good knights in disguise who thought you were evil ogres. Firecrag has tricked you, and you must delve deep into his lair. Not the toughest dungeon of the strongholds, but in the end, it turns out Firecrag is actually a red dragon who has a personal interest in you. You don't have to fight him until you're ready, and I don't know what building becomes your stronghold if you're a paladin. Maybe the paladin headquarters back in Athkatla, maybe the cabin of Lord Windspear himself, not sure. The Ranger Stronghold quest is my personal favorite. In the village of Imnisvale, people are disappearing in the night or being outright killed. Is it ogres? Wolves? The ancient witch Umar herself, whose backstory is a big reference to the Blair Witch Project? As it turns out, it's a shadowy entity called the Shade Lord, accompanied by his pack of shadows and shade wolves, and even a shadow dragon, who again, you don't have to fight yet, you can come back in Chapter 6 to take on the dragons. And if you're a ranger, you become the new Ranger of Imnisvale, since the Shade Lord was possessing the body of their previous ranger. In the Bard Stronghold quest, an interdimensional troupe of tiefling actors in Athkatla have lost their leading man, Herdelise, who has been hypnotized and enslaved by the wizard Mekrath. After freeing Herdelise, the troupe wants to go back to their home in Sigil, but they're captured by interdimensional bounty hunters. After you rescue them, if you're a bard, you get the playhouse they've been using. This is the one overall I'm least familiar with. I don't know what kind of quests arise from running a theater. And in the Druid Stronghold quest, the town of Trademeet is under attack by wild animals, and people blame the druids of a nearby druid grove. Upon investigating the grove, you find it's been taken over by the destructive Shadow Druids, led by Faldorn, who was a companion in Baldur's Gate 1. Once you take her down, the proper druids retake the grove, and if you're a druid, you get to be a member. And once you reach a high level, another thing to come back in Chapter 6 for, you can even challenge for leadership. So that's the kind of stuff you run into in the early stages of the game. Fuck it, let's finish it. Let's talk about the other chapters. Chapter 3 is completing tasks for one of the major thieves guilds in the city. You're likely to work for the Shadow Thieves against Bodhi and her guild of vampires, but some players might choose to give their 20,000 gold pieces to the vampires instead and help them wipe out the Shadow Thieves entirely. Chapter 4, whichever guild you aligned with, sails you to Brinlaw Island so you can get into Spellhold Asylum, where the Cowled Wizards are keeping both Irenicus and your companion Imoen. Irenicus has taken the place over, so it's now a crazy dungeon for you to navigate, the chapter ending with your first battle against Irenicus, from which he escapes. In Chapter 5, you follow him through the Underdark, the mandatory Underdark chapter of any self-respecting D&D adventure. The Silver Dragon Adelon disguises your whole group as Dark Elves, so you can infiltrate the city and get her eggs back. In exchange, she brings you back to the surface. In Chapter 6, you once again have free reign of the world map as you did in Chapters 2 and 3, so you can finish up some of your more difficult quests, do some more stronghold questing, and explore some additional new areas. Your objective is to go against Bodhi and her vampire guild and take her down permanently. No easy task. You gotta get some allies, the Paladin Guild and the Shadow Thieves, if you're still on good terms with them, as well as the legendary Dritz Do'Urden and his companions of the Hall. Nice cameo there. I'm thinking, like I said before, I'm thinking more about writing my musical about them. That's something to finish early, I think. And finally, there's Chapter 7, when you pursue Irenicus into his former home, the elf city of Soldanesselar, which he's taken over with demons and stuff. You find your way to him, where he's sucking the energy out of the Tree of Life and have what seems to be your final battle against him, except he then drags you to hell and you have to go through more trials. Then there's the final battle of the game. The expansion pack, Throne of Baal, adds Chapters 8 to 10. Not as much to say there. You fight the Five, an organization of your fellow children of Baal. Have I mentioned Baal? The subject comes up surprisingly little in Baldur's Gate 2, given how instrumental it is to the expansion pack, and of course, a major plot reveal in BG1 that your protagonist is a child of Baal, the god of murder. As Chapter 8 begins, you first face Ellison. She's a total joke, just in case you're a first-time player starting with Throne of Baal. She's quite defeatable, no more powerful than some characters you encounter way back in Chapter 1. Most of the rest of the chapter is then taken up by trying to find the secret weakness of Yagashura, the second member and a fire giant warlord. In Chapter 9, you seek out the lairs of Sendai and Abazagal. Sendai is a dark elf with a very Underdark-themed enclave with all the Underdark stuff you usually have to face. Spiders, mind flayers, loads and loads of dark elves. And Abazagal is a dragon operating out of a classic dragon's lair, a maze of underwater tunnels, and even a couple of other dragons. And the final member of the Five is Balthazar, a human monk of immense power. Super martial arts. Chapter 10 is nothing more or less than the final boss battle, a multi-stage battle against a usurper who has manipulated you and the Five and all of these events so that she can become the goddess of murder. At the end, you can choose to either give up your divine essence and live on as a mortal adventurer, or become a god. A benign god or a villainous one, depending on the alignment your character has been playing all this time. Whew, okay, that felt much more satisfying. Anyway, that's the story I've been playing multiple times since I was very young, inspiring me in probably way more ways than I can remember, since it's been a long time since I was just wandering aimlessly through the world, stuck eternally in Chapter 2 to the point that I once attempted to make reaching Chapter 4 a big research project for school. I can't recall if I've ever beaten the final battle without cheating. I don't think so. I don't even know how I ever got to the final battle back before I learned about the cheat codes, because I did not understand optimization or tactics at all. Really blundered my way through the whole game. Anyway, the Infinity Engine, returning soon to this channel. I flaked out on my previous Icewind Dale playthrough from the channel's beginnings, but once I'm done with Dungeon Siege, it's coming back. In conclusion, I have no idea when the next podcast will be out, not only because of my usual executive function issues, but because the Team Salmon segment has run dry. They're meant to be about past projects and the people involved, and we're all out of past projects. So mostly I'm working on future projects. Keys and Kingdoms, Irregular Fantasy, the fiction stuff, which, like the podcast, has been stuck in place for the past few years. Maybe I can write up buffers of all the other segments, start doing them when I get some justification for guests. I think that's the plan. The ending bumper is coming up that thanks the people on the Patreon, and seriously, a thank you to the 2 paid members of the Patreon. It's been the same 2 people for the entire 6 years we've had the Patreon account. Really appreciate you guys sticking around for all these years, even without much updated content. Trying to do more for the 2 of you and the various members who have popped up since it became possible to subscribe to people on Patreon for free. I hate that. Have a good one. To support TAPAS and learn more, visit our link tree. TAPAS and Stuff Productions is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, including Knight Sadie Allen.